Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome back if you are back on our USA Global TV and Radio channel and you are watching Talking Heads. So Talking Heads is a show where we have expert presenters presenting on a variety of topics. And for this one, I am your presenter and I will be taking you through a variety of leadership-related topics. And for today, we are specifically looking at communication. So with that said, who am I? For those of you that are joining us for the very, very first time, my name is MARISKA. I am coming to you all the way from Australia. So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. And I am so happy to have you here and know that you also want to show up as the best leader you can be for your team and those around you. So whether you have a physical team, whether the team consists of just you and another person, or whether you are only leading yourself, it doesn't really matter. We are all leaders in some way, shape, or form in our life. And communication is, as you might have noticed as you progressed throughout life, a fairly important part of us being able to convey information to other human beings, convey emotional states, values, and all the rest of the things that comes within the communication space to make sure that we understand each other and we can build something together that is growing and generative in its formation. So with that being said, we are looking at three different things within our communication and conversation space and making sure that we can really have impactful conversations, because we can have boring conversations. I mean, if you meet a person next time, you just ask them, how are you doing? The likely response will be, oh, fine. From time to time, they might break the pattern and say something else. But in generally, people will just comment that they're doing well, good, fine. Oh, life's good. So it doesn't really give us a lot more to work with. So as a leader and within your own conversations and communication, I would love to give you these three tips that would help you when you are within conversations to actually level them up. And you can utilize this within your one-on-one conversations. You can definitely utilize them within team spaces, and whether it is at work, at home, or with friends, they are always very, very useful in any scenario. So the very, very first one is emotional intelligence, or our emotional vocabulary. Now, we typically, for most people, have a penthouse in the thinking space, especially the people that I work with, seeing as I work with a lot of specialists that moved into engineering or moved into leadership, such as engineers, or people that moved up in their leadership space. And Well, we do have a tendency to start off with thinking our way through everything. Now, the big thing is, for us as human beings, we aren't only a thinking machine. You are not a PC. You are not AI either, right? You have more than just skills to think. You can also feel. You also have a set of emotions that go with a variety of different interactions that you might encounter. So what is helpful for us within any conversation is having a bit of a wider variety of emotional words that we can utilize. So our emotional vocabulary is very, very important. Being able to express emotions other than sad, happy, angry, and frustrated might be good, because there's nuance in the way that we might experience things. It also describes the intensity of the emotion. So if I look at frustrated and angry, for example, they are both within the same group of emotions, but they're not exactly the same intensity necessarily. I might get very, very frustrated, but I'm not angry yet. Or I might get really, really angry and want to explode, seeing red, which typically would be a good time to remove myself from any conversation. And that might be due to frustration. It might have built from frustration, but it is a different type of emotion. So it leveled up into something else. And it's good to understand emotions, because the better we are equipped to verbalize what type of emotion we might be experiencing ourselves, or what type of emotion we might be seeing in the other person, it helps us to navigate them better. And it also helps us to communicate better with the other human being or human beings in our environment. It also helps us to communicate better with ourselves, because when I know what the emotion is that I am experiencing, I can then have a response accordingly. If I label all my emotions with the same name, it doesn't necessarily give me a big repertoire of different responses that I might be able to actually have depending on what emotion it is that I'm experiencing. So how is it that we develop emotional vocabulary? Well, one way of doing it is looking at what it is that you are experiencing, right? Now, if you go and do a bit of a Google search, you will find a whole bunch of different templates on emotional vocabulary out there. So I am not going to bore you with all the different words that we have. If you are not sure what emotion you might be experiencing, or what the other person might be experiencing, because your vocabulary is still a little bit smaller than potentially it can be, I would suggest to go on Google and search for emotional vocabulary types of words, and it will give you lists with different words on them. And then on that list, you can go and identify where you think it is that your emotion might be sitting. It might not be quite anger, it might not be frustration, but it might be something else. It might even be boredom. So understanding what the word is helps us to refine what that emotional experience is for us. It also, as I mentioned earlier, helps us to understand what the other person might be going through. Now, how do we know what the other person might be going through? Well, we listen to their language, we look at their body postures and some of the nonverbal communication, and we also extrapolate what it might feel like for us, and then have a bit of a guess. Now, we don't want to tell the person, you feel so-and-so, because we are not the person. We can only guess what they are feeling. It might be that we say something like, the person might come in to our office and be very animated about a specific topic. They might express some concerns, some things that's not quite working the way that they want, and they're really feeling a little bit stuck with what to do next. And you can see that. So it might be that we say to them that I can see that this specific situation is potentially causing some frustration, and it sounds like you might be a bit stuck because you don't see any way forward. So that's a way in which we can bring emotion into our conversation, helping the other person feel seen and heard while not putting the emotion on top of them. So we're not saying you are frustrated or you are stuck, but it seems like that might be the case. They also now have the opportunity to correct us if that is not what they are feeling. Might be that they just wanted to make sure that we know what is going on, and they're like, yeah, I might be a little bit unsure, not necessarily stuck yet. So it helps both of us to clarify what exactly is going on within that space, which also levels up our conversations that we have. So that's the very first one, is emotional vocabulary that we want to work on so we can have impactful conversations. Then the second one we want to work on is our value vocabulary. Now, when you have a conversation with another human being, typically at some point in the conversation, they will express something that's important to them. It might be that they are busy with a project and they are trying to communicate why it's important to them for this project to be on time, or why it's important to them for this project to actually have all the specific details covered in just the way that they want to cover it, because there's something there that they value. Now, when we have a well-formed value vocabulary, it helps us to identify the different types of values that people might be expressing during their conversations. It also helps us to then help the other person be seen and heard and felt as they are expressing whatever it is that they are trying to communicate to us. So how do we go about a values experience or expanding our values vocabulary? Well, what you can do is, first off, go and have, again, a bit of a Google search on a values vocabulary and look at what type of words typically show up in values for people. Then, once you have that, so if you think about honesty, for example, honesty might be somebody's value. Now, what other ways might we express honesty that uses different types of words? So it might be trustworthy. It might be a person with high integrity. So there's different ways that we can express the same sort of value. So they sort of cluster in a group that has similar meaning to it. Now, again, for each individual, they might attribute other types of meaning to their specific value word. And if we use a word like, I see that you value honesty a lot, they might say, well, no, it's not actually honesty, it is integrity, or it is trust, or it is something else. So they might verbalize it a little different. So we don't want to, again, put it on them. It's more of I am noticing that this might be something that is valuable for you, or of value, or of importance for you within this space. And how can we see that we honor that specific value? Because as you might recall, if you have watched some of my other Talking Heads installments, we do have a tendency to explode when our values are not honored. Whether you are physically aware of your value because you did a values exercise at some point and you know exactly what those values are, or whether you are unaware of what your values are, they are still in the background running, because those are things that's important to you. How explicit you've been about them doesn't really matter. The thing is, once they get stepped on, you will definitely know that it's been stepped on, because you will have an unproportionate reaction to whatever the other person is doing, or you might feel like they're not understanding you, they don't see you, they don't try to get what you are putting down on the table. Or it might be, if you're on the other side, when you have stepped on somebody's values, you will see a reaction from them, and it might be a little bit more on the anger side of things, or avoidance, depending on how the person handles conflict. So that's our second one, is around looking at our values and our value vocabulary. Now, for a lot of people, when we listen to each other, we don't really listen for values. And this is important. We don't even necessarily listen for emotion. Most people only listen to the facts that come through, because remember, most people are very much analytically in their heads, busy to figure out how to respond to this conversation, or how to cover themselves in one shape or form, if that might be the case. So there's a lot of other things happening in people's minds while we are having these conversations. And that's what I want you to step out of. I want you to step out of your head and having that internal conversation, and really listen to this person to figure out, can I hear what it is that the emotion is that's attached? Are they excited about something? Are they very passionate about it? Are they very frustrated because they can't get something to work the way that they want? Are they trying to control things that maybe shouldn't be theirs to control? How is this showing up for them? And it might be that control is something that they do value. They value being in control of things. Now, this can be good or bad. And it is not for us to necessarily change that. We can bring it forward, though, within our conversation, when you have more coach-like conversations with the people around you. So being able to see the emotion, it gives us an idea of what is important to them. Now that we know what is important to them, because there's this emotion attached to it, we can start to see what is the value that's attached to that emotion, so that we actually can get to what's this thing at the bottom that we are trying to solve, and maybe neither of us have all the words for it. We don't quite know how to get around that yet. So that's why those two, to start off with, really important. And then you might notice that I have started hinting at the third one. Now, to have really impactful conversations, the third thing that we want to keep in mind at all times is to keep our mouth shut as much as possible. Give the other person an opportunity and a platform to be able to express themselves. I remember reading Dale Carnegie's book around influencing people. And the way that you do that, one of the things that he mentions is actually that the more questions you ask and the more you help the other person feel seen and heard, the more they think that you are a stand-up person to be around. And that still applies to this day. So the more we can keep our mouth shut and keep our ears open so that we can listen for the emotions and the values, the better the conversation will become, because now we're helping this other person to feel seen and heard. We are also interested in, or we are having an interest in where their thinking might be going. We want to try and understand what it is that they're saying and why this is important to them. Because if I can figure that out, and if I can help them understand and I can understand it myself, it's a lot easier to start to solve the problem. But if I just want to solve the problem and I don't even know these other things, we might end up solving the problem in really the wrong way, or it might keep coming back. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't like doing things numerous times. To me, it shows that somewhere I missed something. So as an engineer myself, I'm a little bit lazy that way, and I want to get things to work preferably as effectively as possible, as soon and often as possible. And by utilizing our emotional vocabulary as well as our values vocabulary within our conversations, we can do that. Not have these circle conversations, not try to solve a problem that actually wasn't a problem to solve to begin with. We needed to look in a different place. Or even having conflict conversations where they are not necessarily required. It's not that we don't want any challenging type of conversations where we can challenge each other, but we also want to do it in a way where it's generative. And when we can see those emotions as well as the values that's coming into the conversation, and I can promise you, go and listen, really listen to your next conversation that you have. Really listen to the person right in front of you. And you will find there's some form of emotion in there. It might, if you don't see anything that's big, right? It might be very subtle, and it might be something that is such as boredom, right? It's like, ugh, yeah, I'm not really interested. Because that also gives you an idea that this isn't as important to them. So we want to go to the thing that is important to them. Because as soon as we have some form of importance, some form of value around the thing that we are discussing, there's life injected in it. Whereas when it's not something that we are interested in, think for yourself. If you were to be at a party and people only talk about things that you don't really care about, will you have a fun time? Most probably not. You'll most probably start to get bored and want to leave. And that's the same for everyone. So we want to ensure that the conversations we have, to make them impactful and to help other people have impactful conversations with us, is to look at those things that can actually bring life into our conversations. Now, whether you are a leader and you need to get your team to work together, great way to do that, understanding what each individual's emotional state as well as value system is so that we can bring them together. Or whether you are just leading yourself. Having this self-knowledge is also really good to understand what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and where it is that I want to go next in my career, in life, in this project, or how I need to potentially handle that next conversation that I'm going to be having. And listening, even when you apply it to yourself, still applies. Keeping your mouth shut, so quiet this thing. It is very loud. It is constantly talking. I know that as long as I've been talking here with you guys for this little section, you've had hundreds and hundreds of thoughts going through your mind, whether you agreed with me, didn't agree with me, wanted to look into something, whatever the case might be. There's a lot going up in this little nugget of yours. And that happens in all conversations. So noticing to quiet it down so that we can actually be present with the person in front of us helps us to then identify the emotions and the values and be able to express those accordingly. So with that, I look forward to potentially even having a conversation with you, and that hopefully might even happen soon. And hi, I'm seeing Savvy Williams there. It is great to have you on the show. And I look forward, as I said, having conversations with all of you guys, and that you have learned a little about how to have conversations that would be more impactful no matter where you go in life. And I just see very, very good things for you going off into the future. With that, it is the end of our Talking Heads show for today. I look forward to seeing you guys next month. So we do this show, for me in any case, once a month. So we will be back again in March with our next topic that would help us within our leadership space. And of course, you can always also find me on a Women's Prerogative that we do in the same time slot every other week. So when we don't have this, we have a Women's Prerogative. Otherwise, you will find me here on Talking Heads at USA Global TV and Radio. The other way that you can always get in contact and let me know what it is that you want to work with within your leadership space to bring a little bit more humanness into that area of your life is by contacting me via my email address, which is here at the bottom or there at the top if you are looking on your mobile device. It is Mariska, M-A-R-I-S-K-A, at journey2discover.com. Alternatively, you can also find me on my website with the same address, journey, Journey, 2, discover, discover.com. Or you can also contact me on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, it's nice and easy, Mariska du Preez, and you can write me a message and we can start our conversation there. Now, if you were wondering what it is that I do, I work with leaders, if you have not noticed yet, whether you are a new leader stepping into leadership or you are stepping up within your leadership space to bring more humanness into your space. And this might be through conversations that you might be having, difficult interactions that you are struggling with, how to navigate those, as well as within the team space. So if you would like a bit of a hand on how to bring some of these tools into your environment and how that might look like, you are more than welcome to contact me so we can start that conversation. And that is it for me for now. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.